All right. We got the worst fitness advice by Jeff Nippert. Let's see what he thinks the worst fitness advice is. Let's go.
I'm ranking 19 controversial fitness topics as either overrated or underrated. And for some extra scientific credibility, this time I'm pulling in exercise scientist Dr. Mike Israetel, who not only has a PhD in sport physiology, but is a competitive bodybuilder himself. I'm giving us...
Honestly, when people don't like Dr. Mike, I don't even understand when people don't like Dr. Mike. He's fucking hilarious. He's jacked as fuck, and he sounds pretty smart. He makes really good points. So
15 seconds each to explain why we think each item is overrated
15 seconds
or underrated,
each.
and we'll be covering 3 categories: training, nutrition, and hot fitness topics. Here we go.
Okay.
The first category is training, cheat reps, also known as ego lifting.
Go first.
It is a journey without an end or a purpose. When you think it through, cheat reps are stupid on almost all counts. You end up having a higher probability of injury, a lower probability of stimulating the target muscle, and a very difficult time tracking.
I agree that they're overrated. I think for the most part, people should use good technique. I would argue that on certain exercises, for example, bicep curls, if doing a little bit of cheating and slight momentum allows you to get another rep, and then you control the eccentric, that might be an extra controlled eccentric that you wouldn't have gotten if you hadn't used that little bit of momentum. So I think that they can have some value, but I would still say overall, mostly overrated.
Muscle soreness.
I think it can be a good proxy that you did actually hit the target muscle. It can be
muscle soreness, yes.
That the muscle you were trying to hit was in fact stimulated. But I think a lot of people are under the impression that if you didn't get sore, that means you didn't have a good workout or you didn't grow muscle, which is definitely not true. And in that sense, I would say it's overrated.
I think it's...
I feel like if I do a workout, right, like bicep curls, let's say, this one was always for me. If I do biceps the next day, I don't feel sore. I feel like I wasted my time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, oh, like, what did I do? Did I do enough work? Did I not do enough work? And funny enough, for years, biceps weren't growing. So I took that as I didn't do enough work.
It's become fashionable lately in the evidence-based community to say that soreness is overrated, or more specifically, that soreness doesn't really mean anything and that soreness is only a side effect of novelty. I think that fails on about 7 or 8 logical grounds. When you do more volume, more intensity, proper progression, when you come closer to failure, when you generate a lot of metabolites, when you focus on the eccentric, when you train along muscle lengths, all of those things tend to cause more soreness. And to me, that sounds like a very, very close link causatively to hypertrophy. It's okay if you're not getting sore, but if you're not progressing and you feel like you're understimulating, trying to get sore is probably a good idea. And if you're getting sore, you have 99 problems, but stimulus is not one.
Training each muscle only once a week, also known as a bro split.
There are better ways to train than training one muscle group once a week, especially if you're talking about small muscle groups. Like if you train your rear delts once a week or your biceps once a week, there's absolutely no way they take that long to recover. You just missed opportunity. And legs or something, or if you have a huge back is fine once a week, but it's also not optimal. I think you should train muscles when they recover. That generally occurs anywhere between every day or 2 times a week.
Yeah, I agree. A little bit of devil's advocate.
Yeah, for me, like I like telling people to start training once a week. Like pick Monday as chest, for example. Make sure you always get your chest work in it. But like as you get more advanced, you start adding in a second exercise. Like I add in back to my Mondays, for example, so I can hit back, 2 times a week, maybe 3 if I'm going to do a little bit of pull-ups here and there. But typically, 2 times a week if you're like advanced. But when people are starting out, I find it just easier just to say, hey, look, go on Monday, go get a chest pump, and then you won the day after that.
The latest frequency research does show that a bro split is a viable approach, but I would say it's probably not the
bro split
approach.
Don't spend 2 hours per workout 5 days in the gym to do a perfectly fine approach. No one in here in the gym right now wants perfectly fine. They want jacked. It's the same number of days a week. You show up and not do a bro split, you get better results.
What about training to failure?
So I think overrated. I think that the research shows that there's not a huge difference in terms of hypertrophy or strength if you go all the way to failure or if you stop a couple reps shy. I think people think going to failure is super, super important. And I think that you have to know what failure feels like, but I do think overall it's overrated and not as important.
I personally like going to failure, like most of the time. Like, like I'm not like trying to do it on every single set, rep, whatever, but I feel like if you don't go to failure ever, you miss out on so much, especially when you're focused on like a stretch position and going to failure. It feels so good.
Bodybuilders think.
Agreed, and I would add that most of the people that are saying that failure is super important are coming from an egotistical perspective in which they need to emotionally drain themselves in the gym, and it's more cathartic and psychological and less to do with what gets optimal results.
Nice.
Okay. That is true. When you actually go in and you just get her done, and you go to failure, you feel like you conquered a demon.
So I'm here editing this video now, and I kind of want to update my answer just a little bit. I still kind of think that training to failure is slightly overrated. However, there's a brand new meta-analysis that did find that on average, training to failure was better for muscle growth than not training to failure. That doesn't mean that every set you do needs to be taken to failure, but I would say it's important. If you don't take any sets to failure, I would say you are leaving gains on the table. If I had to update my answer, training to failure is properly rated to slightly overrated. But I'm going to give Mike a quick call and see if he wants to give an update. Hey, Mike.
Space time.
In our last video, you said you thought training to failure was overrated. I'm just wondering.
I like that they both set their cameras up to then look at their phones. They're like, bro, we're going to do this. 10 a.m.? 10 a.m.? Yeah, fucking get the camera rolling. Scott, the video guy, get it going.
If you'd want to update that.
Yes, training to failure is even more overrated. Probably more overrated than ever because of that recent meta-regression that came out that said that training to failure was superior for hypertrophy, but it turns out that's only the case if you train with very low volumes, you're not trying very hard, you're smaller, you're weaker, and you don't train very often. If you train a lot and you're really serious and you're really trying, in that very study, they say training to failure has no advantage. And because most people didn't read the study, almost no one read the study, I guess, then it's more overrated than ever.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, the mind to muscle connection.
Overrated.
People who prefer to talk about mind-muscle connection sometimes are right in a nuanced way, but often are doing a mind-muscle connection at the expense of good technique and a lot of load and the right movements and especially progression. So as long as your technique is good, you have progression, then mind-muscle connection.
Mind-muscle connection is like where like you're doing a movement and you feel it in your muscle and you're like moving your arm path to try and feel it more in that muscle.
Very much a quaternary or tertiary variable.
I completely agree. I think it's one of those things that matters and is generally good, but I think people overstate how much it actually matters. You can
muscle connection, bro.
And not necessarily have a sufficiently stimulative set if you didn't push that set hard.
How do you feel about
yoked
pumps?
Okay, I'm going to say properly rated. I think pumps are fun and they make training more enjoyable.
Yes, the pump.
Have some connection to hypertrophy, and I think people think that pumps are good and fun, and they are. So yeah, properly rated.
Sure. I just mean underrated, and I think pumps are great. And in the evidence-based space, I think pumps are underrated. Whether or not you got a really good pump is a good gauge of if the target muscle was hit, if it's the right place that they're getting pumped, and also a good gauge of volume.
The next category is...
I feel like people people who don't go to the gym, they don't understand what the pump really is like. Like it's like almost like a rite of passage, right? Because the crazy thing with the pump is like if you're working out a certain muscle, right? Let's say your chest, and then you feel a big pump here, you're like, dude, I just hit it. Like that's confirmation. That's number one, like on actually gaining muscle. But two, I think is actually the most important, which this is from Mosey. He called it this, and I've stuck with it, with the pump preview. Right? And the pump preview is like you go and you get the pump, whether you take your shirt off and you look in the mirror or whatever, but you're looking at yourself almost like a future version of you. Like you're like, wow, this is what my arms could look like in the future if I keep up this work. Dude, it's to me like that's the best feeling in the gym is when you're feeling pumped. You feel like you're working towards your potential. I think it's awesome.
Let's start with dirty bulking.
Dirty bulking.
I think dirty bulking.
Dude, everyone's done it. Because you're lazy to track calories most of the time. You're lazy to try and force feed all this food if you're eating in such a huge caloric surplus. But for me, I am horrible at losing fat a lot of times because I always take these little mini breaks. There's always some excuse that I have. I'm not super rigid. I love eating like baked goods and stuff. So dirty bulking is dangerous for me.
It can be fun. It can lead to strength gain, but overall it leads to vastly disproportionately more fat gain than it does muscle gain. And for that reason,
is that the same guy?
I have the stretch marks and loose skin to prove it. So I used to do it. I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun. It caused a lot of irreversible side effects. And I wish I would have stayed leaner, and it sure shit would have gotten me laid more often in college.
Natural testosterone boosters.
Yeah, because like the thing is like when you're dirty bulking, right? You're bulking is such a deficit, or if you're already like out of like overweight and then you start bulking, you just get fatter. Which for most people, at least for me, I've found that I didn't like the way I look more. So it's like I'm getting stronger, but I'm also getting less of the way I want to look. So the approach I've taken now is more of the sense of like, hey, look, let's like bulk up, and then I start gaining, losing my abs basically, and they go, and then at that point I start cutting again. And my whole goal with the cut is to get down to the 6-pack looking abs so that I can just bulk back up, lose the abs, and then cut again, instead of just getting all this extra fat and then never cutting and then just bulking again and bulking again and bulking again. And now it's just because I like eating food.
Go first.
Yeah, this would be super simple. There's no such
These
thing.
are so stupid.
If you want to boost your testosterone, take
testosterone. Comes in a needle.
I mean, even if there was an over-the-counter herb that could boost testosterone, there's no evidence that it would do anything significant or noticeable for muscle mass, right? Which is why most people, I think, take it.
Also, the thing is that if a herb boosts testosterone, you have to ask by what mechanism is it doing that. If your own body detects that a serum testosterone increase has occurred, it usually downregulates its own production. So if you have a combination herb that also keeps your testosterone naturally producing higher, that is a pharmacological multi-compound drug that is not something that grows on a tree.
Right.
Sorry.
1 gram of protein per pound of body weight.
One thing that, yeah, natural testosterone boosters, not a huge fan of, but this one I've actually implemented, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Game changer, because I really realized, like, as a kid, I was going through sports, all this stuff. I never ate 1 gram of protein per my pound of body weight. And if I did, I probably would have gained muscle much faster and retained muscle when I cut much more.
I'm going to do the Jeff Nippard. It's just a little bit more than enough protein than you need for almost all cases. And because it's just a little bit more than enough, if you eat a relatively balanced diet, it obviates the need to pay high attention to protein quality. And it's a really easy number to remember. And if you live in the great nation of the United States of America, then you do pounds, goddamn. Woo!
Grams for food still.
Or Canada.
Okay, I'll
use
say
pounds.
properly rated as well. I like 1 gram per pound with the caveat that it is actually more than you need in almost all instances.
Yeah.
When cutting, I would say 1 gram per pound is a good rule. When bulking, you probably only need like 0.7 or 0.8 grams per pound.
What about body recomposition?
Yeah, but yeah, and I like what they said there, that it's over the amount you need, because the fact that it's over the amount you need, if you miss out on a little bit, you're like, well, whatever. Like, if I eat 1 gram per pound of body weight tomorrow, then I kind of balance it out. So I like it from a balanced perspective.
I think recomping is underrated because most people in the general population can very
crazy
expect
results.
to build muscle while losing fat at the same time, even though a lot of people in fitness culture tend to say, oh, you need to cut in bulk. I don't think that's actually true for most people.
I think those are great and valid points. I'm coming at a slightly different perspective. Just because you can do something and it is effective doesn't mean there's not a better way to do it. Almost all goals that you could achieve with recomping, you could do better with dedicated cutting and bulking. If you want to be jacked or lean, then recomping will only take you so far. And after it runs its course, which is probably in about a year of dedicated recomping, you'll get almost all of it that you will. After that, you're going to have to pull some bigger triggers.
What about diet soda?
Yes.
Diet soda is, by almost all research accounts,
I want to say that the recomping part is important for a lot of people that aren't super fit at the moment. Like it's almost like the light out of the shining light at the end of a dark tunnel, right? So if you're not happy with your body, it's totally, and you haven't been going to the gym, especially like the idea that you can actually get a bunch of muscle gains and then lose fat at the same time, that's like the dream scenario for a lot of people. Once you get advanced and stuff, it's like less effective, but no, that's awesome.
Essentially completely inert with regards to your health, and it tastes delicious, and it's amazing, and it's awesome, and it's underrated by people who think it's really bad for you, or who think it's as bad.
Yeah,
as
why do people think it's so bad?
It's worse, and they're just pure make-believe wrong.
So even just switching from regular soda to diet soda can result in weight loss in a lot of people. It can be so good for satiety and reducing cravings on a diet.
Yeah.
It's a very underutilized tool.
Carbonated drinks.
I'm saying underrated.
Carbonated drinks. When you're trying to lose weight, like they just fill you up. I personally fuck with them a lot. I like them a lot.
Major rush to get lean. I think in general people try to rush fat loss too much, and they'd be better off just like chilling out a little bit, taking the foot off the gas
diet breaks
every
all the
once
time
in a while, allowing
because
your
I'm
training
lazy.
to improve, allowing your muscles to fill back up. People could take a week or two off and just...
I'm like, for real, I'm like, yo, hey babe, you want to get some ice cream tonight? Yeah, I'm doing a diet break. Yeah, of course. And then tomorrow, let's get some Indian food. Why not? Yeah.
Put their calories up to maintenance or even slightly above.
Jesus
and it would
Christ.
actually benefit them in the long run.
I think people like to lose all the weight they need to lose all at the same time. And generally, when it's more than 10% of your body weight, and even that's a high figure, you're going to have to take a long, multi-month diet break for all of the diet fatigue to settle before you go on. So you have to lose.
When they say diet fatigue, it's like you're just over it, man.
2 or 3 months of maintenance and then try again.
What about clean eating?
First of all, just before we continue this, fucking look at his goddamn legs, bro. Look at that shit. Look at that, man. That is insane. Clean eating.
Controversy.
Overrated,
underrated?
underrated.
Because, for one, it's really, really hard to define. Everybody has a different definition of what eating clean means. If you take it to the extreme, you can get some really disordered eating behaviors. Ultimately, it can become so clean that there's nothing left on the menu. I think it's better to focus on an inclusive approach to diet. So you want to include a variety of different foods. For health, you want to include a bunch of different fruits and vegetables. And I don't really think any food should be like strictly off the menu.
I think everything.
Yeah, I agree with that because like it's all food, man. And when you start like demonizing foods and weaponizing foods, you get away from the fact that it's kind of calories in, calories out, right? And what really gets people in trouble is just eating too many calories. It's just that when the dirty foods typically have more calories in them, right? So people are like, avoid those, avoid bacon, avoid ice cream. It's like, yeah, well, if you're shoveling ice cream in your face every goddamn night, you probably should avoid it. But at the same time, if you're going to Starbucks, getting a double caramel macchiato grande, whatever fuck, large, whatever their large size is, if you're doing that every day, that's an extra 500 calories. So if you don't get that coffee and you instead eat 500 calories of ice cream, you know, for me, I like that stuff. But hey, it's up to everybody.
You said it's valid, but I would say that clean eating is relatively easy to define. It is the absence of intentionally high palatability processed junk food. And I think that taking those foods mostly out of your diet, especially as a fat loss phase gets hard, can be really hugely advantageous. But in most other circumstances, mass gaining, maintenance, and even the beginning of a diet, some fun foods are awesome and a great part of life.
Okay, I would agree with that.
Because if you're just eating Pop-Tarts, you know, like that's just you're gonna crash. It's not
fat loss phase. You should try to reduce the super palatable, highly processed foods. That makes sense.
The third category is hot fitness topics.
Hot fitness topics. I love that they put the Liver King in there.
How do you feel about natty or not videos?
All right, I'll take this one. From
natty
a
or not
standpoint, I think they're overrated because I believe in innocent until proven guilty. And if you're just speculating on someone's natural status on scant evidence, then you could be hurting their reputation. From the viewer's standpoint, I don't think they actually give you any value apart from just the fun of the drama, I guess, because the idea is that, oh, if they're not natty, then it's not realistic for me to look like them. But you can't really look like anyone else anyway because of genetic differences.
That's true.
So I think that from both the creator standpoint and the viewer standpoint, super overrated.
That's actually a really good point because when people think about lifting in the gym, like you might want to look like someone specific. Like for example, I wanted to look like Killmonger from Black Panther. I thought he's awesome. But I also want to look like Goku, right? But I'm probably not going to have yellow hair. So what you start finding out is when you're actually going on your journey, you get your pump previews on, you're going through, you end up finding that the way your body's built is different than a lot of other people. So you start adjusting what you're working on and when. And I mean, if someone's on a bunch of steroids, you're probably not going to look like them. But that being said, you could still look amazing even without gear.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is I think true natty or not journalistic approach where someone who has made a real commitment to being drug-free and is lying about it, I think that's awesome. Exposing those frauds is a great thing. But natty or not videos are like when you've done zero research, you're just yelling at the camera and pretending you know things that you don't about anyone. And by the way, for context, I'm not natty. Just in case anyone wanted to say.
Fair enough.
What do you think about the idea?
I got legs, man. Yeah, I mean, the fitness industry is so big for people just like, oh, I'm natural. I eat this crazy primal diet. And then they're not, like the Liver King was.
Natty training is completely different from enhanced training.
Who wrote these? All right, go ahead.
No.
Yeah, it's just like a fiction designed by two people. One, natties that need an excuse for why they're not getting jacked, and two, drug-addicted idiots that think that they don't have to read science papers.
I would say enhanced.
So it's on either side. It's both. It's both of the extremes. It's like, hey, these are all the skinny people who are just not doing what they need to do in the gym, and then on the other side, it's the absolute, like almost like the typical like steroid junkie who's like, no, bro, I'm enhanced. I'm a god. I can do all this shit.
People can probably recover better. Is that not true either?
It's a very nuanced topic. Yeah. It's absolutely true. But if you're enhanced, that means you're more jacked. And as soon as you become more jacked, that enhanced recovery difference goes away because you're more jacked, you're stronger, you're bigger, and it's way harder to recover. So it just ends up leveling the playing field. And you get so big that you have trouble recovering even though you're enhanced.
So for all intents and purposes, like training principles are training principles.
Yes.
Okay.
Cold showers.
Because that is the big thing. Like people are like, yo, if you're on steroids, you could just recover way easier. But he's saying like, yeah, but if you're probably on steroids, you probably have way more fucking muscle. So you still have to recover.
Research vetted way to reduce hypertrophy. If you think that they offer you an effect of that sort of shock therapy, waking you up and it being a sympathetic driver for part of your day, because sympathetic parasympathetic balance is really good, then you don't train hard enough. Go train.
Oh.
Yeah, I think overrated. I feel like it's just a lot of hype with very, very little evidence.
Except for reduce hypertrophy.
Yeah, reduce hypertrophy. It does. Yeah. It does seem to definitely do that.
Okay, what about no?
See, the thing, I have to look into that part more. I have liked doing some cold stuff, but primarily in the morning. Like this morning, I literally woke up and did it because I wanted to wake up and film these videos. So I find it like good to get my day going. I wonder if it reduces hypertrophy in the mornings or if it's like only after training, because I've come from more of an athletic background, so I've seen people do a lot of like cold, like ice baths after training because it reduces inflammation in their knees, and they feel like they can actually walk and not be an old man at 23.
No FAP, also known as semen retention.
No FAP. Oh, dude.
I don't know where this started, but in the wild, humans FAP, and they also FAP with each other. And
in the wild, just cavemen, just.
The overemphasis on the toxicity of both masturbation and is without research support, and there's absolutely unhealthy ways and weird relationships you can get into that. The vast minority of people get into that. If that's you, I feel you.
Yeah.
That sucks. You should be getting looked at and treatment and backing off. But for most people, good God, it's just normal and it's just not a big deal.
And there's no evidence that that I'm aware of that it like boosts testosterone to a substantial degree over the long term, or that it improves training performance.
All right, locking.
The thing is, right? These two motherfuckers, one with a PhD, the other one an absolute bro nerd, I guess. I'm sure he's got some kind of training, but I literally have no idea. It's just a note. He's been around for like 10 years or something. Jeff Nippert. But both of these guys are super evidence-based lifters. Like, they are actually lifting in a way that, as studies come out, they're like, yeah, I support this. So when they are saying, hey, look, this one topic has not been researched at all, don't worry about it, I tend to believe them. Like, for me, like, when people are like, yeah, I've been really on my grind. I've been trying to, like, the no FAP. I've been doing this, I've been doing that. It's like, dude, like, it's just not the right thing to worry about. You know, like if you're trying to change your life and you're trying to like get your life in a better place, why don't you work out your body, right? Get a better body that's going to serve you in the future, so that when you're actually in a situation where you're earning way more money, you don't have to worry about the gym because you're already fucking jacked. And then on the other end, it's like, why don't you just learn how to make more money? Like, why are we worrying about fapping? You know, unless it's like really detrimental to your day, you can't stop. You're 5 times a day. It's just all you do all day, I guess. But
locking out the knees is dangerous.
Go ahead.
Dude, I hate locking out knees.
Evidence, no rationale for that. And your knees are designed to lock out. And if you control the lockout gently and you don't snap into it like a psycho and turn your muscles off at the end, and you're not one of the people with some sort of laxity disorder, you're going to be just fine. And you need strong knees.
Again, I think it goes back to people approaching training with a very fragile mindset. They think if they're just moving slightly the wrong way, then everything's going to break and it's going to be the end of them. It's not true.
Filming in gyms.
The thing is, man, is like, we've all seen those videos of some dude on a leg press and then they lock out and then it's like wank, and I would skip that shit.
I think underrated.
Same with biceps.
I think it's overhated. I feel like people hate on people filming at the gym, like, oh, why are you filming at the gym, this and that. I film at the gym and it helps educate people on training. As long as you're not disrespecting other people who maybe don't want to be on camera or violating the gym rules, I'm all for it.
I think as the world becomes more technologically advanced and as more of us
Bro, it's good. You're just living your best life. Dude, that shit would be so funny. But man, if you were hitting like a hard cardio session with that shit on your face, you'd probably have just the craziest acne around there.
To wear eventually VR glasses, AR glasses, eventually AR contact lenses. Being out in public will be implicit consent for being on anyone's video. And also, of course I'm going to film my training, and anyone should be able to film their training too. And if you walk through someone's camera, you will be on camera because you're out in public anyway. Are you kidding me? And Facebook and Instagram and stuff is just another version of public. You were out in the gym, weren't you? If someone's filming in your own private gym and you don't want to be on there, I understand. And also, there's tripods everywhere. So what? Walk around. There's also machines everywhere. Get out of here.
If you didn't see the last video, I did a shoulder workout with Dr. Mike. I'll put a link to that over here somewhere. Make sure you check out his channel. He does all kinds of really good myth busting.
I gotta check out that shoulder video.
Into that kind of thing. You'll love Renaissance periodization. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video.
I gotta check out that shoulder video because like I'm trying to get big shoulders, man. That was good shit. I like that shit. That was good. I learned some things today.